welcome ladies beyond flying and gentlemen from all over the world. Glad to have you with us on another fantastic Aviation Women panel. It's the 19th already. Today with a fantastic guest speaker from JetBlue Airways. So my name is Daniel Stecher, Vice President Airline Operations, IBS Software. It's a big pleasure to have so many great aviation industry experts and primarily women here in this aviation panel. Maja, you are our go-to girl today. The stage is yours, and let's have enjoyable, potentially 60 minutes. So I think you plan to have the question and answers at the end of the session, or do you want to have a lively dialogue? What's your preference?
I think we're a small group enough to have a lively dialogue. So I won't be able to see raised hands because I'll be sharing a presentation. But if you ladies wish to just jump in and, make a comment or share your personal experience or ask any question, please do that. So Daniel, are you okay if I just kick off? Yes.
Yes, please.
So first of all, let me say a big, huge thank you to Daniel and to all the ladies that have been pushing forward the agenda of Ladies Beyond Flying, because there is definitely so much we can do for our industry together. And thank you so much for inviting me today. It's been a super busy period, so I already apologize now that I haven't been active enough and sufficient in attending all the, after-hour parties and webinars, but I promise to do so this year. As we sort of reach the we won't reach the maturity just yet, but we will sort of stabilize the business that we have in the UK over the coming months. So I will just share my presentation now, and I hope that just tell me if you can see this slide.
We can.
Mm-hmm. Good. So I'm going to move on to the next one. So just a little introduction to who I am. So I'm Serbian by origin. I grew up in Belgrade, the capital of Serbia. And if you all recall, in the 90s, there was a lot of turbulence going on in that country. I left. I was lucky, one of the lucky ones to leave, and sort of at 16 start my education outside of Serbia. I spent a lot of time in Germany, in Heidelberg, where I finished my American high school. And then from there, I sort of felt like I wanted to really discover the world. And I went on to a hospitality and tourism management school in Switzerland, in Montreux, a very beautiful place, where I had the opportunity to also do some experience within hotels during my studies, and also work in Greece, in Creta, in a beautiful private resort there. I always felt that, service was sort of part of what I am, and I had it in my blood of my entire life. So I moved on after school. I was quickly hired by Hyatt International Group, and I went to Hong Kong, where I started my sort of hospitality career at the Grand Hyatt in Hong Kong. And then after that, I moved back to Germany, where I was part of the pre-opening team of sort of several properties in Germany, in Hamburg, Mainz, and Berlin. And there was already one in Cologne where I was sort of based, all Hyatt international properties. At that point, I felt sort of like, wow, I don't know if this is all for me. I wish I could do more. I need to do more. I would like to be flexible to also potentially change within our tourism industry and go into maybe airlines one day. So I did my MBA studies, and in parallel, I worked for Lufthansa at the airport as part of the ground operations. I was I started as a check-in agent, and then I boarded a lot of flights at Frankfurt, then in Cologne, Bonn as well, and I fell in love with aviation. As soon as I finished my studies, I was already sort of 2 years into Lufthansa contract. I sort of decided to try and go back to Serbia a little bit, but then it didn't really work out for me, as the country kept going through another turbulence in the late 90s. And I was in the meantime sort of working already in investment promotion, believe it or not. I tried to use my MBA diploma for that, and I was hired by World Bank and IFC, which is the private arm of the World Bank, and I worked for them in Vienna in Austria. Then for a while. I was there for about 3 years. I got my first daughter, and then quickly the second one followed. So I'm a mom of 2 girls, 17 and 13 now, both of them. And I went then on to work in Serbia for a pharmaceutical company, and I spent another 4 years working in pharma industry. But then, of course, my heart told me, it's not where I feel best. I need to go back to hospitality and tourism. So Etihad Airways was acquiring YAT. It was the former Yugoslav airline company, and it was going to be transformed into Air Serbia, which is called today. So I joined Etihad Airways. I went on to work with them for Air Serbia first, and then I later moved to Seychelles with them, where I spent another 3 years working as GM commercial at Air Seychelles. And then about 3 years ago, I actually was offered a job to work for Flybe. If any of you know, it was one of the biggest regional airlines in Europe. It was based in Exeter. It's the southwest of England, and it basically connected across Europe and flew to some of the attractive destinations in the south of Europe as well. And unfortunately, Flybe was already 4 decades in sort of operation, but in difficult troubles, I would call it, that wouldn't be that for which we didn't have really time to fix at the end because the pandemic came around. And unfortunately, although we tried to transform the company and it was going to be sort of acquired by several stakeholders, among which also Virgin Atlantic was one, and it was going to be rebranded as well as Virgin Connect airline. Unfortunately, we ran out of time and the airline went into administration. I was very sort of heavy-hearted after that because we put a lot of love and work into that airline. But at the same time, I was sort of spotted by JetBlue team, and the CEO of JetBlue met me, and he was very interested. And he said, "Listen, Maja, we've been talking for 4 years now about launching services to Europe, and we need someone on the other side. We need some boots on the ground. Would you be interested?" And I was like, "Yes, of course I'm interested. I'm definitely 100% interested." So we continued the conversations, and literally on the day when sort of pandemic hit hard in the UK and we went into lockdown, which was, I believe, 21st of March of 2020, I received my JetBlue badge and I started working, remotely from home with a task to actually be those boots on the ground here in the UK and set up our London operations for success. And of course, for the launch, which was going to happen. So here I'd like to just say that, I strongly think that, it was phenomenal that JetBlue as an airline, although facing the challenges of the pandemic and, the entire sort of sad story around what happened and how hard it hit our industry, I've got to say that, it was impressive that our leadership team kept this project alive and kept it sort of as the light at the end of the tunnel. I think it was a motivational sort of thing for many of us that were involved in this project, and it was a heavy lift one because, as you can imagine, you'd think that pandemic sort of was a tough time, but at the same time it opened up certain opportunities for us. That said, it still was very difficult because there was a lot of people, that were on furlough in the UK, not possible to reach. People were not going into office. You had to try to connect to these people on email, locate them on their phones, and it was just very, very tough period. But, a long time ago, and that was about 22 years ago, last Friday, to be more precise, on the 11th of February, JetBlue was formed and founded with the mission to bring humanity back to air travel. Well, the past couple of years, we've been actually trying to bring travel back to humanity more than anything else. So, and because of that aspect and that value, that we hold or in our hearts, I think that we sort of played a little bit of offense, and we spotted the opportunity and went for it. But before I go into how the project evolved itself, I just wanted to, for those of you that don't know JetBlue, and I realized actually now in being in the UK for several years, those that haven't flown across the Atlantic or haven't traveled across US or Caribbean or Latin Americas have not actually heard about JetBlue. So JetBlue is the New York hometown airline. We're based in Queens. We have phenomenal office there, and it's just we're such a community sort of a partner to New York, and we work very closely with our community, and we promote New York, and Europe promotes us wherever they can. So we started boldly 22 years ago, if you recall. It wasn't the most ideal time. Like a year later, aviation felt another hit, another blow as well, but we went through that too. And we started as a small airline, operating domestic flights mostly. And then in 2004, we went on to operate our first international flights. Our home airport is JFK, and Terminal 5 is where we are sort of the host. Let's put it this way. It's our terminal, and it's all JetBlue branded, and this is where we operate most of our flights, New York being our first focus city. We operate a fleet of about 200 jets, and we had our first A321 delivery in 2013, while the first A321LR was delivered especially for our transatlantic flights. We launched for the first time our Mint product. Mint is our business class, and I'm explaining this now because I'll be talking a lot about it later. So we had up until then, we had our core product on offer to our customers. Core is basically economy class translated, but you will see what core means for JetBlue and from our perspective. And then in 2014, we launched Mint product, which is the business class product, and we flew it domestically. It was extremely popular, especially on the routes from New York to the West Coast, and it really skyrocketed from there. So we basically managed to grow our network across 100 plus destinations. We were also the first ones to introduce Wi-Fi, and that's fleet-wide and free of charge. And that same applies on our transatlantic flights as well. Also, I like to actually say that we are not just an airline, we are a travel company. So we don't have just the airline business, but we also have JetBlue Technology Ventures. JetBlue Technology Ventures is sort of an investment arm of JetBlue where we spot potential future projects that could be of interest for travel industry, and we invest in those startups. And like, for example, Joby Aviation, it's electric transport. Then we have certain apps that are under development that we're also sort of pioneering at JetBlue as well. And we also have JetBlue Vacations. JetBlue Vacations is sort of an OTA arm of our business. They're based in Florida, and they do package travel, which of course includes JetBlue flights. Doesn't have to, but can also include hotels, rent-a-cars, etc., attractions and stuff like that. In 2021, we boldly crossed the Atlantic, and basically today is about that year and that milestone, and I'm really proud that I was part of it. So I'll talk you through a little bit of the thinking around that. And I don't know if any of you have any questions. Oops, sorry about that. Wait a minute. So please do jump in. Daniel, any questions?
Not till now. I will tell you,
Okay.
and please, the audience, raise your hands or use the chat notes in order to ask your question.
Great, thanks a lot. So basically, when you think about launching a route, you got to think about.
Now we have a question.
Oh,
now we
okay.
Have a question. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Paul,
Happy
please.
to answer. Sure.
Yes, I put it in the chat window. When you were speaking about JetBlue Vacations, can you just explain what Paisley is, Maja?
Oh, yes, it's an app that we use. So let's put it this way. Imagine you purchased your flight and you are sort of just the flight on our website. You will be automatically sort of contacted via Paisley. It's an app that actually gives you an opportunity to manage your entire sort of travel. So it will give you an option to add on your hotel booking, attractions, buy any other ancillaries that you would like to enjoy during your trip. It's actually a phenomenal thing that we believe it's not going to be just JetBlue's sort of tool to use, but in the future, it could be something that other airlines may want to use. It just basically gives you an access to the entire experience and options to book everything else that you would require for your journey.
It's slightly different than JetBlue Vacations. It's a post-flight booking, adding on other products after the initial air booking. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is correct. And by the way, JetBlue Vacations was the one that launched that as an option. So let's say you decide not to buy the package immediately, you buy just the flight, you'll get that option then to sort of book additional items as part of your travel. Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Maja. Thank you.
Sure, sure. By the way, have you had exposure to Paisley already?
A little bit is the short answer. Not a huge amount, but some.
Yes, yes, great.
And Anne, do you want to ask your question verbally, or shall I ask it for you?
Yeah, sure, I can ask it. I said, well, Paisley, I haven't had a chance to try it out, sadly. Actually, in April is going to be the first time I fly back to the US in 2 years. But with Paisley, do you reroute all these transactions to other suppliers, or are you in charge? Do you control it as the order system of Paisley? Or what I mean is that if I want to book an excursion, for example, am I then redirected to Get Your Guide or something?
So here you will actually be directed to JetBlue Vacations offer. So that's where we're going to probably offer you sort of hotel, anything that we have on the special deals. You'll be able to combine hotel and car opportunity, rent a car opportunity, or any kind of other sort of attractions. If you're going to Disneyland, you'll be offered, options to book that as well. So that's the kind of thing that.
So that's your brand, like Vacations.
It's a brand.
Yeah.
Yes.
That explains it. Thank you.
Yes. So, all right. So launching transatlantic flying, I guess, I'd say we played a lot of offense. We looked at opportunities network wide. It wasn't just about transatlantic. It was also, we during the pandemic, actually, I have to say, we launched around 33 plus new routes because we understood that actually everything has changed. The market was completely distorted. It was a lot about, we're looking for demand and where demand was still existing. Corporate business disappeared altogether. It's not that we're a corporate airline, we're mostly leisure, but a lot of our focus routes, focus cities offer those corporate businesses connections and flights. So we had to reshuffle and understand where that demand is and actually cater to it. So a big part of that was also, sort of preparing for transatlantic flights. And, to be honest, when everything stopped, it was like silence out there. And we still had to deal with identifying, slots that we're going to fly, understand which airport we're going to fly to, because we were looking at London. We never committed to a particular airport. We knew that Heathrow was going to be really tough to enter. And, to be honest, it was still tough, even during the pandemic, where 90% of traffic was down, or at one point 99.9% was down. It was still difficult to find slots at Heathrow. And so we had to heavily engage with regulators, with Heathrow Airport, and they were fantastic partner and all that. To be honest, they were constantly on our side, and they wanted us to come across this Atlantic to bring that amazing product and lower fares, because that's what their customers want as well. So it was the sort of win-win situation for both sides. So we worked very closely with Heathrow, with Gatwick airports, also with Stansted Airport, because at one point we sort of applied for slots at all three just to see how things were pan out. And at the end, we were super happy to receive a slot at Gatwick and another slot at ad hoc slot at Heathrow. So just to explain there, we have a historic slot at Gatwick, and we have an ad hoc slot at Heathrow, which we are able to extend season after season. Of course, we continue to engage now with all key stakeholders to ensure that we have a long-term path at both airports. So having those two slots was just the beginning of a story, because we also had to sort of get our aircraft. And as you can imagine, our seats were produced at AIM in Bournemouth. We were, parts were produced in other places. Our plane was in Hamburg. So we needed to get our plane as well. And, it all needed to happen on time. And as you can imagine, it was really, really challenging, that part as well, so we were negotiating with Airbus, talking to our partners, looking at, visiting, making sure that the product is done in time and so on, so that we can get our aircraft in time. And if you all know very well, I bet that you do, but to fly transatlantic, you do need to have your aircraft ETOPS certified, which means you can fly across water surfaces. So basically, the ETOPS certification required another amount of tests and everything else. We didn't have before that kind of process in place. We never had an ETOPS certified aircraft, so this was for us a first off as well. So we had to learn as we go, but also understand and write our own processes and procedures, and get the help of the various industry stakeholders to make sure that happens successfully. On the other side, here in the UK, we also had to partner up with on the ground sort of business partners that were to be our business partners. We needed to identify our ground handling partner, our catering partner, our maintenance partners, our cabin appearance partners and cleaning, security partners. I didn't put them on, but they're ICTS. And, it all took a lot of time sort of engaging, talking to those partners. In fact, we issued an RFP, and we had 3 partners apply for each one of these sort of business partner positions. And then we interviewed, we visited, we talked, and it was very important for us throughout to basically identify the right partners that have the same values as we do, and that sort of reflect the culture that we have at JetBlue. So, and that all happened online, believe it or not, with just me alone on this side of the Atlantic. We also had to sort of at the same time think about the sales. So we entered BSB UK sometimes in March 21 only. So if you think about it, we had to have a sales team set up and in place just before that. We actually decided to go for an option, and I'm so happy that we did, for an option of a general sales agent. We engaged Discover the World to be our GSA here in the UK, and they have actually selected a dedicated sales team that's basically painted in JetBlue with the JetBlue values on their heart, and these guys have actually become sort of our ambassadors in the market just before we entered the UK BSB. We went on sale in May 21. Believe it or not, we were launching our flights in August, and we only went on sale on the 19th of May. So just think about that impact of the pandemic on the booking window and what was happening at that point. We're launching flights in August. it was the 13th of August when our first flight, 12th of August when our first flight from London took off to New York. And we only were on sale for about 2.5 months or 3 months in total. So we basically managed that to secure the good sales team, and went on sale. We started immediately engaging with the travel trade, and I'll put a little bit of accent on that piece because in the US, JetBlue is very much, a known home brand. About 80% of our bookings come through direct channel. Most of, our customers know us. They go on website, they type in jetblue.com and they book their tickets. They know their 3-letter codes and they go for it. In the UK, we're a very unknown brand. And, for those of you on the call that are sort of in commercial roles, sales roles, we had to completely change the way we think and, build our sales case for Point of Sale UK, because in the UK, a must-do is basically work with the travel trade. Travel agents play a huge and important role and support and the brand, but also in raising awareness with their own customers. So we started immediately engaging with the travel trade in the UK, trying to understand, what do they want from us? What would they expect from us? How do they see us? And, what are the things that we need to sort of bring to the table to be equally competitive? Because the competition is definitely fierce. We have our biggest competitors are Virgin and British Airways. Most of the market sits with them. And, the pandemic actually in that sense didn't help much because a lot of those tickets and bookings sort of are still there. They're just postponed. So a lot of new businesses actually locked by having to sort of use those existing vouchers and travel banks to during this year, because the travel corridor opened only on the 8th of November, to be honest. So, and with certain difficulties at that time as well. So, yeah. So
I have a question on that. Do you have also considered to work with, let's say, some low-cost airline partners in Europe to start like a Connex business, first leg within Europe and then the long-haul flight brought by JetBlue?
So connectivity, yes. So I was going to explain that piece. So we basically operate the Airbus A321 LRs. These are narrow body aircraft. So narrow body means a single aisle across the Atlantic. And a lot of people were like, wow, that's a small aircraft, it's, like unusual and so on, because most of other airlines actually fly wide bodies across the Atlantic with 200 plus more seats. So we have only 134, of which 24 are basically in our mint cabin. And in the back, we have around 114 seats, of which some are reserved for crew rest. So basically, with 134 seats, we wanted to focus mainly on point-to-point traffic to ensure that also the yield is strong. It's again, this sales commercial kind of thinking. However, because transatlantic route is very seasonal as well, we definitely, have to think about interline partners, codeshare partnerships, and so on. So we do have about 44 interline partners, believe it or not. And during the pandemic, besides launching transatlantic flights, we have also gone into partnership with American Airlines. I believe many of you have heard of that partnership. It's called the Northeast Alliance, and it's mostly focused on domestic US, but that also sort of provides feeder, de-feeder flights. And on this end, on the side of the UK, at Gatwick, for example, there are a number of airlines that could play that feeder-defeater role. For example, we operate from the same terminal where EasyJet is located, and EasyJet has a very strong European network and also domestic UK. So they have a product called, I believe, Travel Connect or Worldwide Connect, I believe it's called. And this is something that we are, of course, considering. At Heathrow is a hub, and we have a lot of partners at Heathrow. We have recently literally expanded our partnership with Aer Lingus and Iceland Air. So yes, there are opportunities actually. I think, for you, Daniel, I think we'll have to definitely look into something out of Germany. so fingers crossed that's coming soon, because Germany is definitely a huge market as well for us and on the radar, of course. Does that answer your question, Daniel?
Absolutely, thank you.
Great. Maja, yes. One more question. Has that Northeast Alliance got DOJ approval, or is it still pending?
So that is currently under a review, and to be honest, we have carved out our London flights from that alliance piece. So we currently, our flights are not part of it at all. So the London transatlantic services are not part of the NEA, but I think it's still under review, and we believe that this alliance has brought along a lot of positives for the customers, because it's all about giving people choice, giving them low fares, giving them options to connect, and this is what this brings about. So we're certainly hopeful this is going to be a very positive thing for everybody, including our customers.
Thank you.
Sure. So operations launch planning. So that was another funny one. We had to consider a lot of things, because US customers, so first of all, we were not able to go to the US at all unless we had an exemption from the UK. And US colleagues of mine were able to enter UK for up until, I believe, mid-July, but had to go through sort of self-isolation, day 2, day 5, day 8 test, and all of that. It was really, to be honest, crazy, because we had to train our business partners on the ground. We had to make sure that everybody's across our standards and how we deal with customers. We had to, ensure that both airports are equipped. We have offices at both Heathrow and Gatwick airports. So we had to, equip with the right equipment, with our network connections. We had to, make sure that we, have sufficient support coming from our other airports in the US to actually support the team adequately on this end until they were sort of used to the ways we do business at JetBlue. So it was big teams that came over and had to go through that self-isolation and to be able to actually come out and do their work. So very challenging. And then, of course, the inaugurals, it was very tough as well. I mean, I'll give you just one little story. Inaugural at Heathrow happened on the 12th of August, and we literally had to avoid self-isolation, we had to have some people just transit, so turn around and go back on the same flight, not to avoid basically 5 days in quarantine. So it was really, always finding ways around and how to actually, make things happen, being very creative about everything. But then, from my personal experience, I have to say, being completely new in an organization where I met probably in total 8 people, and they're all top leaders, so not the people that I was going to engage with on a daily basis. It was a huge challenge. Imagine just sitting, so in your home at your, let's say, a kitchen desk, if you didn't put up something in your shed, and and trying to sort of reach out to people across the Atlantic in a different time zone, them also being at home and trying to do their work day to day. So it was a huge challenge, and it made me sort of get more and more creative around how I talk to people, how I reach out to them, how I engage, how I make sure that I stay on top of things and make sure that I'm constantly visible, actually, so they don't forget, because there was a lot of other priorities on the table. So, to be one of those priorities, you had to really be nudging people all the time, and being boring a little bit. But, they would say, hey, it's again Maja. But I would say, yeah, I know, but I need to get this done. So, it was all about that. And then, of course, we had to continually, be engaged on different work streams to make sure that we take the right decisions when it comes to revenue management, when it comes to sales decisions, when it comes to, pricing, the way we want to do pricing and introduce ourselves in this market and position our airline, but also marketing and communications. And I bet, it was very difficult for many of you that come in or work in airlines, and other businesses as well. Marketing budgets were the first ones to be cut because, it's like, you're a new entrant. You definitely, need to tick that box and put in marketing money to raise the awareness of your brand. But, during the pandemic, it's very tough to do something like that, because how do you tell people, hey, fly JetBlue, when they can't even land in the US without an exemption? So it was all those kind of strategizing, talking, discussing, where do we put the money that is best used? How do we make sure we do the right thing? And to be honest, in a way, we were saved a little bit here because in the UK, working with travel trade, it was really a way to get around these challenges best way we could. So, and we did launch, and we launched successfully, and nobody expected us to launch at 2 airports, but we did so. We do have a double airport strategy in several cities where we operate. So it wasn't something new for us, but of course it does, create, double costs. You think about the efficiencies, but you also think about one flight here, one flight there. How do you make the most out of it, and so on? So this is something that we're looking to kind of strengthen this year. So the idea this year would definitely be to sort of strengthen our position at both Heathrow and Gatwick and continue to operate our JFK flights. But also this summer, we plan to launch our Boston services. So I'd say, the key priorities for now is, because I mentioned to you that we had these ad hoc slots at Heathrow, secure continued operations and both London airports, but Heathrow especially. We already extended Heathrow JFK flights on sales up until end of October, which is the end of IATA's summer season 22. And then, of course, continue to work closely with travel trade, organize events, webinars, training, etc. Tell them about our products, show them what we can do, bring them on board our aircraft, show them, our amazing cabin crew and our service on board, etc. And then, of course, we managed to do some familiarization trips as well. We did one in December, and it was literally before the new regulation came in place, just before Christmas. So we managed to show our key travel trade partners in the UK and New York, our head office, as well as introduce them to our leadership team. So Boston launch, as I said, that's something that is in planning, but we also have an order further. So 3 additional aircraft are coming this year, A321LRs that are going to be fully deployed on our transatlantic flights. And then in addition to that, we have another 20 that are a mix of LRs and XLRs that are going to be deployed on our transatlantic services, which means potentially you'll see us flying to other European destinations, such as, I don't know, Paris maybe, or Amsterdam, or somewhere nice and warm in the south, like in Spain, Madrid, or we'll see. We'll see what comes. And then, of course,
I have a question.
Yes.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Assuming, and hopefully it will not come, but assuming there is another pandemic, and we have still all this paperwork, isolation, and so on, you name it, what would you do differently? So what are, let's say, the learnings, and what are the takeaways that next time it's like easy peasy, transatlantic route pandemic, no brainer?
So tell you something. I don't think we are, any of us are really, sort of ready for that kind of thing. Never ready. You can prepare, you can make sure that you have everything in place, but I'm just going to stop presenting for a moment because I couldn't see anybody, but this feels better. You're never ready for this kind of pandemic. It's always sort of like it's about how quickly can you adjust your business and how quickly you can sort of together, as a team, strategize and deploy your key assets on other opportunities. I'll tell you what happened during the pandemic. I mean, most of us are sitting here in Europe, but, US actually recovered almost faster than any other airline industry. And why? Because domestic travel was happening. It didn't disappear altogether. We never stopped really flying altogether. So when you think about that, our aircraft, for example, before 8th of November, the A321LRs that are meant to operate only on transatlantic flights were taken. We basically decided to operate 4 per week and redeployed the aircraft on our transcon services to LA. So some of our customers were able to experience it on their flights to LA. I think if the next pandemic was to come, I think the best lesson learned is having boots on the ground. If we're going to launch a new routes anywhere in any market, having boots on the ground is critical. You cannot do it by, sending team over, people coming and going and so on and so forth. You got to be on the ground. You got to have your ears on the ground because things happen so fast. You need to be really quick to react, quick to update, quick to push your message to your leadership, but at the same time to your customer, to your partners and all over the place. So it's really about being sort of wearing many, many hats at the same time, because we all had to roll up our sleeves and do many things, and I was completely out of my comfort zone in so many situations, like, ETOPS flying, and then you have the FAA inspectors coming across the Atlantic and they're asking you questions and you're like, well, this is it, this is that, I'll have to check, I'll come back to you and this and that. And, and you don't have people around because a lot of people are on furlough here in the UK. You don't have people around to ask them questions, it's like, you got to go back and type an email or, call them up and things like this. So yeah, I think, being quick to adjust, being flexible to wear many hats, roll up your sleeves and boots on the ground. And that's what it is,
Thanks, Maja. Paul, you raised your hand.
I did have to unmute myself. Apologies. Did you say, Maja, that the pricing, revenue management, yield management, all of those nice things are being managed locally on the ground on the UK side, or how is that done? Can you maybe just explain a little bit more on that?
Sure. So actually, at JetBlue, we have our Leadership Support Center, LSC. We call it like that. It's not called headquarters. Unlike everybody else, we don't have a headquarters. We have an LSC. And this is basically a team of dedicated leaders that sit in Queens. And this is where all our support comes from. So when I say pricing, it's like me talking to our revenue management team, pricing or revenue integrity or whoever was in there, helping us sort out stuff for especially for the UK market, because this, as I said, operates very different from what we do in the US. And they would be sort of asking for input from on the ground, so on the ground expertise and understanding of what needs to happen. And then actually the very deployment and sort of the job itself would be actually done in LSC in New York, and then of course push through the GDSs over to point of sale UK market. So I would say that was a good question, by the way, because without that support, we wouldn't be flying transatlantic. So it's actually the entire team that sits at our LSC that has joined to basically support our pre-launch activities and help us out in putting the right thing into this market. I mean, you know yourself probably, this market is a net fare market. This is something we don't have at all in US. This is completely different ticketing time limits, different, terms and conditions attached. And of course, it's all based on segmentation. So when you think about it, the customer defines your pricing strategy as well at the end of the day. So it was a lot of sort of prep work to be done to be able to play the game in this market.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, I know it is a net fares market, much different than point of sale US. So thank you. Thanks for the answer.
Sure. So I think, I just probably wanted to share just a little bit more here, and I hope you can see this one now, but we launched our flights to London Heathrow and London Gatwick from JFK Terminal 5. I don't know how many of you know, but at Terminal 5 we are attached directly to the TWA Hotel, which is a retro style hotel, a famous one. And in this picture, you can see this little plane here they call Connie. It's a beautiful, sort of lounge all in red. Who has seen the movie Catch Me If You Can with Leonardo DiCaprio? This is basically where they filmed that piece, and it's really amazing and iconic. And if I'd recommend, when you do fly with JetBlue, land in New York at Terminal 5, check out our JetBlue sort of offering, but also get to TWA and enjoy that. So we're currently in the process of sort of arranging lounges at both airports. That's still work to be done, and we're progressing on that. We wanted to just make sure that we are going to have a long-term solution at either one of the two terminals where we currently operate from. So it's at Heathrow Terminal 2, and at Gatwick it's North Terminal. And then, of course, the even more speed and premium security and fast track are part of that offering as well. Oops. Oh, all right. These are the timings. So we currently fly out of Heathrow at 2 p.m., out of Gatwick at 12, and we land at Heathrow around 10 in the morning and at Gatwick around 8 a.m. So these are really good times. And, good times for those either leisure or corporate customers that can enjoy a full day in London of either meetings or attractions. Sorry, I'm just having some little trouble here. This is basically a slide just to say what our actually core experience means. We call it core because all our flights offer it, no matter whether it's domestic or international. And we have the most legroom in economy. We have free Wi-Fi. We have free live TV, so you can watch Super Bowl now, or you can watch football or any other sport that you like. We have free unlimited snacks and drinks, and we have phenomenal award-winning customer service. And on this one, I'd like to just quickly pause and say, that for our transatlantic flights, we have actually handpicked the crew members that operate on board our flights. So these were all our colleagues that were already at JetBlue working our Mint flights, and they all had to apply particularly for transatlantic service, be trained for it, and were then committed solely to transatlantic flying. And this is why we believe this is a huge success, because our crew members on board will actually offer the most amazing service, which, you can't copy it. You can do a lot of things in the product, but it's the people that make the difference at the end of the day. So, and then I'll just give you like a little sneak peek into how even more space looks like. We have 4 rows that are basically even more space in our core cabin, and these have 7-inch more, 5-inch more pitch, more legroom on transatlantic flights. And then this is basically the next one. Just a second. The presentation.
There's a question from Anne.
Oh. Sorry about this. 1 second.
No.
I'm so sorry.
No rush. No rush at all. Don't worry.
My presentation just shut down. I don't know why is that. Daniel was warning me about this. But please go ahead, ask questions while I'm sorting this out.
Yeah, I'm so intrigued at this, with net fares and this whole, to me, very sort of legacy kind of way of working. So that to me means that you position yourself more as a competitor to BA and Virgin, rather than, for example, when Norse start flying, they will be the true low cost segment, so to speak. And also out of curiosity, when you sort of deal with these net fares and all this stuff that I find utterly complicated and complex, is that something you even do on your own website, or how do you deal with, not necessarily having the same fares everywhere kind of thing?
Yeah, so that's a great question actually, and so let me begin by answering first of all the question around Norse and our positioning. So, Daniel, is that you or is it me?
I try to be your backup.
I love it. Thanks so much. Thank you very much. So, so basically, when we talk about Norse and positioning of JetBlue, we don't want to have JetBlue be seen as another low-cost carrier in this market, because it is not. In fact, what we are able to offer is low fares and quality product and service. So we want to offer both to our customers. And basically at the core of everything lies this amazing service that we have on board. But also what we commit to do is offer everyday low fares. So we don't do just tacticals and things like this, but everyday low fares. So we don't see ourselves as, you will see that our product on board resembles very much, legacy carriers that you're used to. Like we've been voted the best business class seat in the sky. And maybe, Daniel, if you can go to the next slide. Basically, this is a mint product that we offer on our flights. And, we have two studios at the very front. So 1A and 1F will be studios that can actually host 2 people inside. And then in the back, you have 22 suites. And each one of them are equipped with amenities, with incredible, for example, we have a true bed in the sky, because the foam cushions that we have for this bed are actually made by a company that produces beds. So it's like it's tough to needle, and they really make these adaptive foam cushions that that you really kind of lying there and you feel like you're at home in your bed. So the quality of this product is just incredible, if I can say that. I mean, I'm not being biased here. I've tried it and I can tell you it's incredible. Also the food, for example, we try to, because we're in New York's hometown airline, we try to resemble sort of the New York lifestyle. So you'll see the food is very much, that funky, fresh, healthy salad, with options to have vegan, vegetarian options as well. And, we serve cocktails on board, and we have amazing desserts as well. I mean, it's just like the entire onboard entertainment comes together for this. Inside our bathrooms, toilets on board, we have blue tiles. So, which also resembles sort of a little bit of like this New York style. So it's really, really interesting altogether.
So it is more sort of, I don't misunderstand me in any way. I have 2 favorite airlines in the US, and those are JetBlue and Southwest. Those are my 2 favorite airlines, and I fly JetBlue whenever I get an opportunity. But to me, JetBlue is very much associated with a very laid back style, very laid back approach, very, very not so fancy, so to speak. They greet you personally when you board. I find that really, really, really nice. It's so different from what you would say a typical legacy traditional airline. Let's compare it to American Airlines, for instance.
Yes, I mean, you're 100% right. By the way, we try to, I'll put it this way. If we were a person, we would probably wear like a little bit of a cash suit and sneakers.
Yeah.
this is how we would look like. And, we are a bit casual. We want to have that homey, relaxed feeling. We are most of our marketing, if you look at us on Instagram or Facebook, we have a lot of puns that we use in every communication that we put out. I mean, we are about, bringing that human touch to everything so that you don't feel like stiff or out of place when you're on board our flights. You want to feel really relaxed, and it should be for everybody to feel like that. So it's about that. And our crew members get the opportunity to really pamper you on board. I mean, I have to say, every time I fly with JetBlue, and you probably experienced this, I'm not sure if you had that opportunity on our transcon flights, but we often our crew members leave you a personal note, which they all sign with their names and thank you and let you know, hey, until we meet again. And it's just great to get that kind of feeling. And when you go back, if you're a loyal customer with us, they'll know your name, they'll recognize you, because that's our crew that is dedicated. So yeah, I think we can go on, Daniel, to next picture. So that's how it looks like. All have private sort of door and have that privacy. So when I said before, you'll be surprised what we've done on a small narrow body aircraft, because with a single aisle, you would think, oh my God, this must be very squeezed on board and everybody's like sitting in each other's lap. In fact, it's not. It's spacious, and you have your space. You can close your door, you can have your privacy. And we've done this first off thing with Airbus where we have this airspace cabin. So it changes the mood. It's mood lighting and all of that comes into play. So you feel really like you're at home in your lounge in a way. Those colors, those blue calming colors, help you with that. And we also have throughout the flight a small pantry all the way in the back. You'll see a picture later in the presentation. We can just get
we lost her.
Yes, we did. I was wondering how far I lost you, or
No, I'm still here. So we have the presentation. Hopefully she's dialing in. Unfortunately, I can be the technical backup by presenting the slides, but I'm not the technical presenter now. So here you see a nice JetBlue cabin in this very famous Blue Lightning.
Looks very nice.
And we were almost at the end of the session. Here is the pantry she was talking about.
Daniel, do you know who hosts JetBlue?
You mean for PSS? It's Sabre.
Yes.
It's Sabre.
Yeah, Sabre.
Yeah.
That's maybe the moment for the commercial break. Of course, there are also other reservation system vendors in the market. Paul, you want to mention one?
We're doing a good job of wrapping this up, aren't we? I mean, there's only, 3 minutes left?
Sorry, guys. I'm so sorry. This is just an example of what should never happen, But, I hope, Daniel, that you'll have the opportunity to come bring us together on some live event.
Daniel did a good job. Don't you worry, Maja. Yeah.
Did you finish the presentation? Yeah. You showed the pictures.
Yeah, we were talking about the pantry and the cabin and reservation system. So now we are on that slide. And if you'd like to take over, you still have 3 minutes.
Maja, can I just... I'm not sure if you are the right person to answer this question, but I'll give it a go. So Daniel just told me that JetBlue are hosted on Sabre, and I was just wondering if it is Sabre the best system to host a new generation airline, an airline that wants to be different and wants to do things in a different way, or the capability that Sabre provides is pretty much the same capability that you find in American or United, and with all these challenges associated.
So I'll be very honest here. I think that a lot of airlines are going in the direction of being hosted on Sabre. That's sort of the trend lately. But I would say for us, it was a good choice because what happened, is that we are, in the US, and that market is sort of leading on the Sabre end. When you cross the Atlantic, and I'd say it has to do with geography, very much, because when you cross the Atlantic and you come to UK, this is a lot of Amadeus market here. And, it becomes very challenging then to kind of work with agents that are operating in Amadeus system. And, you kind of have to, we had those challenges, by the way. It's a valid question. We had those challenges to ensure that actually the Amadeus agents have the visibility of our fares that are filed, through the Sabre host system as well. And it required work on both the agent side, but also on our own end.
Ali, just one comment on that. I mean, there's a lot of factors. I'm not going to do any kind of a hard sell, but you need to consider, if you're an airline, in choosing many things, including your distribution strategy, whether you're going to do GDS distribution, whether it will be mostly direct connect. So choosing the right PSS and making sure it's a good fit for the airline really very much depends on the airline strategy.
And that's a very good comment, Paul, because a lot of airlines are now going NDC. UK is an NDC market, and distribution strategy, really does have to support those ambitions. Ability to create API links and to be able to actually, escalate it to the next level. I mean, I'm not an expert for that, but I can tell you the things that we're sort of involved in right now always go back to, hey, we got to sit down with Sabre, talk to them about this, talk to them about that, because it does go back to your host. So you need to make sure that you pick the right one depending on your overall strategy as an airline.
So Maja, I'm really amazed. Spot on, great presentation. And I think we could also bridge some technical challenges here and there. But now you know why I was asking you for the slides to be a technical backup for you, because you never know, it can always happen. But
Sure.
Thank you very much. I think it was a very lively discussion. I like your idea that we should all meet in person, maybe powered by JetBlue. We will get back to you, and then maybe we do this exactly in this very nice TWA environment, and then we all play Catch Me If You Can together.
Oh, totally. Thank you all so much for having me. I'm really excited about what you're doing, and congratulations, Daniel, and all the ladies, and gentlemen that are very much supporting this. I think, there's so much ahead of us. And by the way, I'll just say one more thing at the end. We are a headline sponsor. This is not yet announced, but it will be tomorrow, of a huge TTG event. I don't know whether you know, that's happening yearly. It's Asian Awards in the UK, and that's going to happen on the inaugural, basically the day when we sort of celebrate our first anniversary since the launch of London flights in September. So I'm really, really excited about that. And we are small but bold, and we're trying to do as much as we can. And I sincerely hope that we'll be able to welcome you on board soon, all of you.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Maja.
you.
Thank
And
you.
also thank you very much of being part of a growing community. So this week we crossed the milestone of 600. Now we are 603 members in Ladies Beyond Flying. And I would say we are the most inclusive and diverse community in the world, because we also accept smart, upbeat, positive, enthusiastic men. So that's why we are very inclusive. And also looking in the future, we have really a good lineup for the upcoming months in our Aviation Women panel. So next month in March, we have Juliana from LATAM Airlines talking, and then we continue with a dedicated session on Africa as a continent with Arte Funke. Then when we continue with Raquel from Play Air from Iceland. And then in June, we have the executive chairman of IBS Software talking about redefining the future of travel. In July, we have Jessica Tyler, I think a role model in the air cargo industry, talking about transforming air cargo. So I think all in all, we have a fantastic program. We have already a session also scheduled for August and September. So we have almost a wait list for this Aviation Women panel, and that's really fantastic news. So thank you all for your attendance and making this community so strong and so inclusive and diverse. And thank you very much for all the good questions. I hope you enjoyed it. I will share the recording with you, and Maja, please stay healthy and safe, and looking forward to seeing you soon in person. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maja. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.